All right, welcome to the Second Nature Spring webinar series entitled MS4 Compliance Unlocked. Today we're going to be talking about practical strategies to streamline construction site runoff compliance. We've had great success with our polls in the last couple of webinars, so we have people log in and get situated. Question is, which is currently the biggest barrier to effective stormwater management for your agency? Two of the biggest challenges that folks are facing is one, just data silos, and then the other is the time-intensive field inspections and the manual data entry back into the field. So good thing you're in the right place. We're going to spend some time talking about some solutions to remove some of those barriers for your team. My name's Nicole Beck. I'm the CEO and founder of Second Nature. I have a doctorate in aquatic chemistry and a trained data scientist. I'm really driven to help urban land managers and stormwater managers just better manage the data and the information that you all are required to collect under these MS4 permits and turn that data into information and power. My co-host today is Maggie Mathias, my dear friend and colleague. We've been working together for, over 20 years, not 30, we're not that old yet, over 20 years. She has been Second Nature's head of product from the beginning. She is an expert in merging the practical needs of our customers, you all, with Second Nature's cool science and analytics into those robust software solutions that our team offer today. We're also pleased to be joined by two of our colleagues from Berkeley County, West Virginia, Zach Norris and Katie. Before using 2Inform, they faced a lot of the similar struggles that stormwater teams are facing today, manual workflows, too much paper. But with the support of their leadership, Berkeley County's really transformed their regulatory data into a strategic asset. So we'll do a little bit of a interview and a little bit later in the hour with them to get their perspective. All right, so a little bit about Second Nature. If we're new to all of you all, we're on a mission to bring science to decision makers. We combine cutting edge research with advanced technology to deliver data-driven solutions for stormwater teams. We are scientists like myself, GIS experts, and stormwater developers, and we have decades of expertise. Our science team, we partner with organizations like the Nature Conservancy or the Pacific Institute. And way back at the beginning, when Maggie and I started this journey, we noticed that urban land managers didn't have the right analytical tools to collect data and inform and quantify the effectiveness of how their stormwater investments were reducing stormwater volumes and pollution. We created methods to address these gaps, and we have routinely then been publishing our work in peer-reviewed journals over the last decade. We take those methods and we embed it, our science, into the data products and the software that we sell and support. And also, fun fact, Second Nature is Esri's leading stormwater solution partner. So you're always assuring that you're going to get the best at GIS with being one of our customers. We created 2Inform to provide stormwater managers with a platform to improve really every aspect of their MS4 program. The system is a single geospatial database on the back end. And then we have a series of modules on the front end that render those workflows that stormwater programs are familiar with, right, as a result of complying with the MS4 programs. So we really want to empower efficiency and eliminate drudgery, but open up that data to provide insights about watershed planning and resiliency and really thinking about how to better manage urban stormwater as a resource. The two modules, well, the main module we'll be talking about today is construction site runoff, but there is a relationship to post-construction or new and redevelopment requirements in that module that we'll touch on because there's some real efficiencies there. The construction site runoff compliance requirements. This is one of the three programs at the state and local governments where you all, stormwater teams, are required to enforce the state compliance requirements on erosion control and pollution prevention In this instance for, right, active construction projects. Industrial commercial is another one, as well as post-construction, where you all get to be what I like to call the de facto regulator. And with that come a lot of challenges in that program. The first is that there's just a revolving door of active projects. New sites are constantly coming online. Each one's got its own timeline. It's got its own requirements. I mean, we see customers have dozens to hundreds of active projects every single year, right? And no two of those sites are the same, right? Each one has a unique design requirements. It has a unique SWIP. It's got unique teams, right? Construction teams that you have to coordinate with. That creates more and more complexity and lots of moving parts. In addition, there are high frequency and intensity of inspections, right? Those high volume site visits you need to be able to stay ahead of to meet your permit requirements. And I mean, we see hundreds to thousands of inspections annually. And our friends are going to join me in a minute from Berkeley County. In 2023, they did 1,214 construction site inspections. With that then, right, there's a complexity in managing the information and the record keeping, right? You got to track tasks, you got to get all the documentation, the communications and all that just can become really overwhelming. And then to boot, we all know every time a new permit is issued and the evolving kind of regulations and requirements that come out of the feds or the state or the local mandates continue to be things that you have to keep up with. So we know it's tough. There's a constant stream of new sites and frequent inspections, and sometimes maybe that feels impossible. Good news, it's not unique to you. Yep. So I've been talking to stormwater programs across the country for, last 5-6 years. And these are real quotes that we get about construction site runoff compliance. Resources are limited. And so you're constantly being expected to do more with less resources, less people. Juggling spreadsheets, emails, paper records makes tracking just a nightmare. That's what we're calling the drudgery. And I think the gal on the right, she looks like she's had it with the pile of paper. Priorities are always changing. It's hard to keep track of those. And all of the communications that are required when what we call an inspection doesn't go down the happy path, meaning not everything is in compliant with their sweep. Now you got to keep track of a bunch of that information, and that gets really overwhelming. And then lastly, annual reporting, right? That's a pain and can take days, weeks, and we've even had groups say, oh yeah, I just stopped doing everything and I do annual reporting for 3 months before the annual report is due. So the challenges are real, and there's some opportunities to stay ahead of the curve. I mentioned this at the beginning, and we're going to talk a lot about the relationship between construction and post-construction. And when, right, a construction project that comes in, moves through active construction, if it triggers your post-construction or your new and redevelopment requirements, all of that information, super valuable, right? But when your systems don't talk, your compliance can suffer. And this is one of the, from discussions and understanding, it seems to be the biggest liability or compliance risk at local governments in their MS4 program. So we have, right, when we don't have those systems talking, we have disconnected data, right? The construction project data is rarely just passed in hand to those post-construction or new and redevelopment teams, right? So you're losing that insight. You have inefficient workflows. So now the folks responsible for post-construction compliance are wasting time tracking down records or going to the vault. We hear a lot of horror stories about going down to the vault. So we want to keep that moving, keep folks moving along, and have that information available to them. And then the last is that accountability on the private landowner, right? They had their project approved as a requirement that they would not only install these stormwater controls, but they would maintain them. And they signed maintenance agreements. And so keeping those assets functional, that has a benefit to your municipal system, right? Any volume or pollution that is managed on site by these private assets is a benefit downstream. So we want to keep that going. All right, so there is a better way. And we'll talk about first, just the benefit of GIS-powered compliance systems. right? You've got to rely upon a bunch of different folks. You want to bring all of those people together and make sure that the information is available to everybody in all of those different roles so that they can all be united and row in the same direction. So some of the benefits then and the transition from turning data to power is a smarter approach to compliance. So before, on the left-hand side, we have scattered records. It's really hard to keep track of compliance. After, we use a system-based approach. We put everything into a single system. We got a single source of truth. We get rid of the manual data entry. That's going to improve workflows and reduce double entry and improve the accuracy of our data. Right? We're not going to lose that data from construction on number 3. We're going to bring it right over, move it along as that project evolves, eventually is delivered and now available for post-construction. And finally, we get to go from being reactive to proactive. So the 5 main strategies that we're going to focus in on today. The first is aligning information needs with that phase. So making sure that compliance is easier by ensuring your teams can enter and access the right data at the right time. The second is transparent weekly planning, right? You got all those moving parts, so a centralized dashboard to keep those compliance tasks organized so that nothing falls through the cracks. Going to really help your team and your compliance risk. Efficient and accurate inspections, making sure that we're replacing outdated kind of paperwork and manual processes with the mobile GIS tools. Third, data-driven insights. What gets Second Nature excited is now we have centralized operable data. We can actually use that data to make better decisions across a bunch of different areas that I think we haven't even thought about before as an industry because we haven't had this data operable. And then finally, that post-construction asset tracking, right? Make sure that those assets don't disappear from your group's purview and understanding as soon as that construction is done, right? Continue that long-term compliance. So we're going to see those strategies in action. I'm going to invite Katie and Zach to join me here. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We always say that rain is good for business. Zach, can you tell us just a little bit about you and your stormwater program?
Sure. A little bit about me. I've been in the environmental science field for over 15 years. I worked for a state system, previously a nonprofit, and then now a public service district. I'm the MS4 coordinator for Berkeley County. And I've been here going on 3 years, I guess. A little bit about our program. The county itself is 320 square miles. Population 130,000 people, roughly. We have 6 staff and customer base in terms of who pays the actual stormwater fee in the county, roughly 35,000 people.
Great, cool. Thank you. Okay, Katie, will you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe some details about your construction program specifically?
Yeah. I was hired on as an intern in 2022 by Berkeley County Stormwater. And then the following year, they hired me as a full-time MS4 inspector. And I've been here for 2 years, and I'm currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in environmental science. So about our program, there's 4 MS4 inspectors, but 2 of us, including myself and another one, are primary for construction. We have 83 active construction sites, and like what you stated earlier, the annual report from 2023 to 2024 stated that we did 1,214 inspections. And for this annual report, which doesn't end until May, but we currently have 784 inspections completed. So it looks like we're on pace.
Yeah, you're a busy lady. Right on. So before To Inform, I know you guys, we partnered up in 2022. Can you maybe, Zach, talk a little bit about a couple of the biggest, what your challenges were before and how your workflows in managing compliance for construction were prior to this?
Sure. I mean, before we were managing an Excel worksheet with all the project information in it. Now, obviously, after you input a project, it's all managed through To Inform. Previously, all field documents were done on pen and paper. And then, of course, compiling inspections at the end of each day. Very arduous process, a lot of work. So that was kind of the before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was maybe one of the most, was there a frustrating part? Was it just the manual pieces of the data entry back and forth and having things in multiple places, or what was most frustrating to you?
I mean, certainly the most frustrating part was compiling the reports at the end of the day. You know, matching photos to pen and paper inspections, scanning, copying, you know,
Yeah.
a mountain of work. And now it's done in the click of a button. So.
And is that how you made the case to change to your boss to say, hey, there's gotta be a better way? Or do you know what one of those main kind of straw that broke the camel's back was?
Well, it's interesting, you know, we're connected by permit to the public sewer district. We're under their permit as of now. And they adopted a management software for the sewer district long before we did. So when we discovered To Inform and presented it, I mean, they had already realized the gains that they, you know, got from their software system. So it wasn't, we didn't have to twist anybody's arm too hard to start down that road.
Okay, so for everyone, my little pet project at the end of last year was to develop a ROI analysis or return on investment to talk to some of our users to understand how much time they're saving. And so I spent some time with Katie and Zach, and all told, they saved 1,200 hours per year on before and after using To Inform, just for their construction site compliance piece. So Katie, can you maybe give us a, day in the life and where you see the efficiencies that you've gained? Like how has that changed what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's become very easier. I just come into the office in the morning, log in to Inform, see what inspections are due, because we have some routines that are done bi-weekly, and see which ones are due for that week, or if I have any follow-ups due for that week. And then I make my daily plan, go out to do the inspections in the field. And then after I'm done with the inspection for a site, as long as it doesn't have an enforcement action to it, I can complete the inspection and send it out right then and there in the field, which saves me a lot of time in the evening.
Super. Zach, did these results when we did that analysis and said, hey, the sum is 1,200 hours across these different parts of your program, did that surprise you at all?
I mean, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but I knew how much time we were saving all of a sudden with how streamlined the workflow is in To Inform, and just how organized it let the program be finally. Everything in one spot is what I like about it.
And did you share these results with your management? And if so, how did they respond?
Well, like I said, they had, upper management on the sewer side had adopted a software system a few years before. I mean, so I think they were expecting to see efficiency from adopting the software. And that's certainly what we have. Since adopting it, we're able to cover certainly more of our permit with fewer staff.
Leading into this discussion, I talked a little bit about that using construction to then make post-construction more efficient and reduce that risk. Has that helped you guys at all? How's your post-construction program going, and any insights to share there?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I'm pretty close. I think we have countywide, we've identified close to 800 structural BMPs. And we've associated those 800 BMPs to somewhere around 400 projects, PCR projects. And just in terms of from construction to post-construction, I mean, it's streamlined. Once you complete a project, it populates in post-construction. As long as you've associated the project with the BMPs, which is a pretty simple thing to do. It's, completing the project, changing the project phase.
Nice. Okay, so feeling like you're on track for post-construction.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long road. We have a lot of projects, but yes.
Yeah, I know, you guys aren't alone. Okay, and then last question before I let you guys go, like any words of advice to your peers, like what you would do differently, or I don't know, if you woke up and found yourself managing a stormwater program with the old way of doing things, like, yeah, any words of advice to the crew?
I mean, I think I could speak for Katie too and say if we had to go back to doing pen and paper inspections, you know, it may be harder to get employees. But I don't, yeah, we're not going back to the pen and paper method.
Right on.
That's for sure.
Yeah, good. Okay. Well, thanks for being such a great partner, and thanks for taking the time to join us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna swap out Zach and Katie for my friend Maggie. Let's go into our demonstration. So those 5 strategies that I kind of queued up and previewed before I chatted with Katie and Zach, Maggie and I are going to do some demos here. So the first is aligning information needs with the project phase. So we always want to make sure that teams have the access to the right data at the right time, and that it's really easy to support those workflows as these projects advance through their delivery phases. She's going to show us a little bit about centralized data management, so that how all that data gets compiled in that single geospatial database. And then importantly, making sure that you're setting up the basic project data to ensure that your inspection frequencies are compliant with your regulatory requirements. So Maggie, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. I'd just like to start with saying that I think that I have the best job at Second Nature. I get to talk to stormwater managers and the staff across the country like Zach and Katie, and then I get to collaborate with our team to build user-friendly software that solves real problems. So I'm really excited today to have this opportunity to show off To Inform. I'm pretty proud of it. So like Nicole mentioned, the To Inform on the front end is organized by modules that align with the sections of the NPDES stormwater permits. And when I jump into the construction module, I'm here on the data tab. I like to think of this as a visual database. It's showing all of the projects in the city of Clean Water. They're symbolized by this project phase. So as the color gets darker, we're nearing project completion. And I can also see what my priority projects are. So this could be based on project area or their proximity to receiving water. And this all goes to that determination of the water quality risk of the site. And higher priority projects usually pose a higher risk and therefore get inspected more frequently. Like Nicole mentioned, this is To Inform relies on a single spatial database on the back end. So that means all of this data is consolidated, no matter the phase, no matter who's collecting the information, you can see it all in one place, like Zach mentioned too. And if you, depending on your preferences, you can look at it in a tabular view, so throw back to a spreadsheet, or in this map view. And really, we think of this map view as GIS for non-GIS data managers or non-GIS users. So you can turn on the different layers, and there's a number of different map tools you can use. One of the fan favorites that we've heard is this zoom to address. And let me just make sure I get the right address I want to put in here. So this allows you to easily find your projects based on what you know about it. So here I've zoomed in to this project that's in the design phase. I can turn on the imagery layer and I can easily see this project. So like Nicole mentioned, in the best case scenario, you have a planning department. They've been adding the information as they've been going through that process, and it's all right here for you. And then there's a handoff. You know, it's ready for this active construction phase. We've heard happens in a bunch of different ways. My personal favorite is the planner who walks up a flight of stairs and takes the design plans and just drops them on the inspector's desk. But what we have here is a way to create a digital record of that handoff. So you can come into this project and change that phase just like Zach mentioned, from design to construction, add the construction start date. The general contractor is going to be a key person as you go through. This is that your eyes on the ground and the person that you're talking to and making sure the site's in compliance. So we can add information about that. You have a chance to review any of the files. So these have all been added as we've gone. And then we have this chance to review the information and determine if this is an at-risk project or not. So looking here, what's important I want to point out is this proximity to the 303D receiving water. It's within 500 feet. So go ahead and mark this as a high priority project. When I save and close, To Inform does a few things automatically for me. So one, the project is now changed to this orange color. That means it's active construction. And it also has a P now, so I can see that it's a priority project. And when I open the pop-up backup, I can see this general contractor information is now right here at my fingertips. So as soon as I need to get a hold of them, I know how. And I've unlocked these workflows. So Katie can now start her routine site visits with this project that's now in the active phase.
Super, thanks, Max. And I think the one thing she didn't share with you all that you can do is there's an inline measurement tool. So she just went ahead and manually measured it right on the screen to see that it's actually 450 feet from the site to the receiving water. So lots of GIS functionality within the system, as well as it's fully integrated with your GIS system at your municipality. I think that was a question that came in. We'll address that more in Q&A. But yeah, sounds a lot better than, way more manageable than dealing with a pile of papers that were dumped on your desk. All right, number 2, transparent and effort-free weekly planning. I mean, we heard it from Katie, right? That there is a dashboard, or what we call a to-do list. It keeps all the compliance teams on track, all those moving parts of inspections, follow-up, enforcements. So Maggie, can you show us that and how that makes sure that nothing falls through the cracks for the stormwater teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the construction to-do tab. You heard it straight from Zach. Over 80 active construction projects, averaging 12,000 inspections per year. Personally, I manage my to-dos with sticky notes. So you can imagine if that was Zach's solution, he wouldn't even be able to find his desk. So what we've done is organized these to-do tabs around 2 key principles that we've heard. So the first is we want to provide a clear structure so that you keep your program in compliance. So we have a cascading list of these workflows. Katie mentioned them, the routine inspections through the follow-ups and enforcements. But we also want to provide flexibility so you can manage your resources efficiently and effectively. So To Inform guides you through those key decision points, and I'll point those out throughout this demonstration. So first, there's the routine inspections. These inspection due dates are calculated automatically based on the last inspection date and based on your permit requirements. Katie mentioned Berkeley County has biweekly inspections. We've heard non-priority projects are sometimes monthly. So this is all calculated for you. And ideally, you're on what Nicole called the happy path. So the field inspector goes out to the site. Everything is in compliance with the SWIP. Everything's great. The inspection's completed. It comes off of this list until its next due date when it shows back up. Of course, not everybody is always on the happy path. And we can know that those follow-ups can be challenging to manage. So what we do is we offer 2 options. The first, when you find something in non-compliance, is a re-inspection. So this is, you want to see it with your own eyes that the issue has been corrected. So on that scheduled follow-up date, you go back out and you can simply see what the issues were and resolve those with the contractor. So all front and center, you don't have to go digging around for previous reports. There's another option that instead is more, Nicole likes to call it like a parking ticket. So this is the idea that the maintenance response can be something that the contractor can submit via photos or notes or files, and that's how you can show that it's been resolved. This Good example here, you're looking for site documents. You don't need to waste your time or the gas driving out to go look at a document. They can just share it with you that it's been updated. So that's been super helpful for a lot of groups. And then, of course, you tried that, it's not working, and it's time to think about those enforcements. Whether that's a new general contractor who you haven't worked with much before, or one you have worked with before and it's not going so great. So whatever the reason, we give you the option in the field to flag a project for an enforcement action. So this gives you time to come back into the office and think about whether or not you should issue the enforcement, either looking at your enforcement response plan or checking in with your supervisor. You could either clear those or go ahead and issue an enforcement. Once it's issued, it's an open enforcement, and you have a clear history here of all the actions you've taken, when you've issued it, when you've escalated it. So it's really all at your fingertips. You've got this digital record that's just helping you keep everything organized, and all of those balls that you're juggling, keep them in the air. The one last point I want to point out, just because we are talking about post-construction, you have these assets that are being built. So we have a to-do list here that allows you to check in on those BMPs as they're being installed, verify that they're meeting the requirements. And so this just helps you keep track of those tasks as well.
All right. Yeah, the digital to-do lists have really helped save a lot of time for our customers. So thanks for showing that off, Maggie. All right. Number 3, triggering efficient and accurate inspections. So our goal is to, right, no two sites are the same. So making sure that your field teams have the right digital tools in the field and that they can efficiently move through those forms as quickly as possible while capturing accurate data. Maggie's also going to show that if you do find findings, particularly on massive construction sites, you can tag its location and take photos right to that finding or that issue, which makes it easier to communicate to the contractors. And then that instant automatically generated report is always available and being appended to the history of that particular project. So go ahead, Maggie.
All right, yeah. Let's jump into the field inspection forms. Katie mentioned this, the top of her list. She can just jump in right here. What I have learned through my career is that the field inspectors are really the engine that drive a successful construction program. Zach wanted to make sure Katie was here and participate in this conversation. And really the key to the heart of a stormwater manager is making sure that their field staff is happy. So I want to point out a few things. We've really focused on our design on making the field inspectors' time in the field as seamless and streamlined as possible. So the first is the form is designed for fielded field devices. Even those of you with fat fingers that have trouble, we've made it so it's super simple to add this data. The form also works offline, so you don't need to worry about any of those technology issues. And you've got information at your fingertips about the project and the contacts. So all of our forms are pre-configured. What we do is work with our customers to really think about what the inspections are that you're doing in the field and making sure that the data entry for those matches what they need to collect. So we don't want people to skip questions. We want to make sure it's standardized. You have the know exactly what you're supposed to do. So as I pick the routine inspection, it's going to preload these questions for me. Nicole mentioned Berkeley County has said, like, these are really time-intensive inspections. And so I'm not going to waste your time right now pointing out all of them and going through a complete one, but do want to show how this works. So imagine you're on the happy path. It's easy. You can just come in, add an observation, say there are no issues, and you've simply cataloged that and can keep moving. But if you do have an example where you've found an issue, and you want to make sure you can provide the what and where and what to do next, we have a number of things to do. You can, using the GPS of your mobile device, you simply click this button and it gets the current location. You can add photos of whatever the issue is, and then write notes about what you want them to do. So simply, like Katie mentioned, you're doing this all in the field, it's collecting it as you go. And then when you come to do the review and finish it all up, it's all right here and you can finish it in the field. So like we pointed out, Nicole mentioned, there is an issue. I need to follow up on that. So I'm going to schedule a reinspection. I'm going to pick the date when I'm going to come back out. This will automatically feed into that to-do list. I collect the signatures that I need. I can demonstrate the total time I was out there, get the signatures, and I have a chance to preview the report and check before I even leave that it's all good. When it is, I save and submit this inspection, and it's automatically generated this report for me. So like Katie mentioned, before she even leaves the site, she can have this. It's got the follow-up actions, it's got all the observations with the photos, and it's been emailed to her, and it's also saved to the project file, so anybody can access it.
Super. And Katie gets her weekends back because she didn't have to go back to the office and manually enter data into the spreadsheet, download her photos, etc. So thanks for sharing that, Maggie. Okay, we're going to move along here. And the next one is the data-driven insights. This is, again, gets Maggie and I and the whole Second Nature team pretty excited, right? Now we have organized, we got operable data, and we can actually make some evaluations of that data. So Maggie's going to show us how the insights and trends have kind of evolved over the last few years with our partners, all of you. How to improve the effectiveness of your compliance program, how you can construction compliance program, how that actually might come to fruition, and then streamline the annual reporting, much like a tax return. So go ahead, Maggie.
All right. This is my favorite tab. This is the insights and trends, like Nicole mentioned. These are widgets, they're KPIs showing both the program efficiency and program effectiveness. This data is automatically updated as soon as inspections submitted, these updates. So you're getting this information in real time and you compare 1 year to the next. I'm sure you've all seen in permits, it talks a lot about this program effectiveness, but there's never been a whole lot of guidance or even agreement on what that means. So each of these widgets that you're seeing has been a direct conversation we've had with our users of what is the information they need. And Zach will proudly tell you, Berkeley County gives us the most feature enhancement requests of any of our users. They are so involved, offering great advice all the time. They even like double the second place person in the amount of feedback we get back from them. So that's been great. And one of my favorite metrics is this one we have here on these top 5 observation findings. So this is what's most frequently cited in those inspections that you're seeing as non-compliant. And we've had users who've taken this information and designed brochures that they can hand out during inspections to highlight and reduce that number. Others have updated their websites with more information about these to gain compliance. And then others have focused their staff training materials on it. So then the idea is you do these efforts with your public education and outreach, and in subsequent years, those go down. And now you're able to show this effectiveness with really clear evidence and numbers. These are the same metrics that we have heard people need in their annual report. So here in To Inform, we're in this annual report. This is a summary for the year. At the top here, it lets you know when your deadline is. This is a lot. I think Nicole and I think about this a little bit kind of like a tax return, both in terms of summarizing it all and making it easy for you, but also that's the drudgery and kind of the pit in the stomach people get of having to deal with this. So letting you know the timeline, and then we have these key metrics down here at the bottom, like the number of projects, total inspections, total enforcements. So allowing you to get that information right at your fingertips. We also have what we call a Mad Lib. This is text automatically generated for you with those key highlights. You can simply copy and paste this, and then you've got a way to start. So it's a little bit like a cheat sheet or a chat GPT that helps you summarize for your management or your regulators. All of this data is captured for every year. So like a tax return, you can go back to another year and check out and see those results that you submitted. So letting you see everything from year to year for your program.
Super. Thanks, Maggie. And that is definitely one of our kind of goals in the milestones of working with programs, is we really want to help them streamline their compliance reporting. So these are some of the tools that allow that to happen. And again, we continue to improve as it upgrades. And yes, the Mad Libs are customized to have the right language for your program. So we work with you all on that. Okay. Last one, we're getting a little tight for time, so Maggie, we're going to be efficient. Drink our own Kool-Aid. All right, the last one, the post-construction asset tracking, right? Like, I think you all can now see, and I'm sure you all, like now, great, construction site runoff compliance, we're saving time, we're being more efficient, but we also have all that information and data on those assets that are in our municipality that the private landowners have agreed not only to invest in, but to maintain. And as Zach said, they have 800 potential assets. Like when we look at data across our users, it's about 80% of the assets are on private land. And so that is a huge opportunity, a cost sharing opportunity, if you can get ahead of it and educate the landowners and educate and force to have them maintain those. So Maggie's going to show us real quickly about how those assets are inventoried and then how they're compiled and tracked with the project as it moves from completion to now this post-active phase.
Awesome. All right, so this is what we like to call the project fact sheet. So ideally, like Nicole mentioned, as soon as the building application is in, if post-construction requirements are going to be triggered. So there's an opportunity there to add some information. While the construction inspectors are out there, you're gathering information. So our goal here is to make you as a construction program manager a hero in the eyes of the post-construction manager. In the case of Zach, it's himself. So he's really making his life easier. But now the post-construction manager does not have to bother you about where the stormwater assets are. They're all inventoried here in this fact sheet. We've got information about the permit info and all of the contacts and files. So there's now one place you've been building this inventory of information throughout the different phases. It's all right here. We also have the history of the inspections and enforcements, and we have the photos. So really trying to build that teamwork and build camaraderie within your stormwater program. The other thing that we hear a lot is post-construction people go out and they're holding these as-built plans and they can't figure out how to translate that plan into what they're seeing in the field. So now 2Inform automatically generates the site map for you. It's got the project boundary and it's showing where those assets are. So now there's no kind of flailing around in the field. And as the construction manager, if you want to take 100% credit for this, go for it. But yeah, just giving an opportunity to make those data handoffs as easy as possible.
As I mentioned, I spent a lot of time last year and coming up, I'm a data scientist. I love spreadsheets. I love operable models. So created one and then interviewed probably a dozen different users across our partner base. And what we came back was like, oh my gosh, right, we're saving real time and money and risks. And so a few of the highlights, obviously you can onboard staff faster, the institutional knowledge and how the workflows happen, right? That reduces, and now you can get folks up and running much faster. And you can also use, and we have a lot of users that will, customers that will use our help center and some of our protocols for their stormwater management plan when they get a new permit. So those protocols are all well written out and just make onboarding faster of your team. Saving tons of time in the field, both preparing for, conducting, and then on the follow-up at home. We heard that, or back at the office. Now Katie gets to get home instead of going back to the office. And you eliminate errors. You get a higher quality of data because you're not double entering stuff, and it's just saving time. So technology's, well known for that. Cut annual reporting as much as in half, sometimes even more. Just getting those KPIs back to the folks who've got to fill out these annual reports, making that as easy as possible. That reduces your compliance risk. And when I think about like, oh God, I've got these drudgery tasks in my life, it sucks not only my time, but like my energy to now think about creative things and do things I really want to do. And so it opens up a huge opportunity from a kind of mindset perspective for your teams that like stormwater is a resource. We all know that from water supply, water quality, flood reduction. And so having more time and energy to think about that gets you to be more proactive. And Maggie's going to launch the poll. Okay, so last poll. What would make the implementation of a stormwater management tool like this most useful for your agency? Which one would you pick, Zach?
Probably time to value. That was my gut. I mean, they all are good.
It looks like the ease of integrating existing systems wins out a little bit over the time savings and the time to value. With a question for you two, Zach and Katie. There was a question about, do you have a stormwater fee for Berkeley County? And if so, what is that fee? And would you mind sharing how you did it?
Yeah, quickly, it was before both of our times, 2017, 18 or 19, I forget. It was voted on by our board of directors and the county commissioners. And the fee is $42 a year.
And does that seem to cover your needs, or?
It does for now, yeah.
Katie, can you talk about how do people respond to your construction site reports? Do they respond directly, or how does that actually work? How do you communicate? Probably, let's say if they're not on the happy path, right, and you have some issues, how do you correspond with them back and forth?
Usually once they receive the report, most contractors will call. If it's like a notice of violation or a corrective notice, they'll call to talk about the issue, and then we'll address it. And then I usually go back out there when the follow-up is supposed to be, and then call them to meet me back on site. A lot of the contractors, if it's a good site, they tend just to say like, got the report in an email, like, thank you, got the report. But if it's severe issues, they'll call you usually.
All right, I'm going to take another question about GIS, and I'll take this one. But the integration with GIS. So like I said, we're a huge Esri partner. We started in their startup program way back when. So it's fully integrated with Esri, and you can think of 2Inform as your compliance solution, but then it syncs data back to your Esri environment, either ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. We speak GIS, your GIS teams will love us. And so that data synchronizes back and forth on relatively real-time basis automatically. So you always have the data that you need in both places. So it is not, once you get all the system data harmonized and brought into 2Inform, that is that whole single source of truth. And if your field crews are used to using field maps, that is also an option with pre-configured field maps forms. So happy to talk more about that. But Maggie, I'm going to ask you a question. So, and there's one here, I'm going to tweak it a little bit, but what does implementation look like? Like, if I have a bunch of active projects, how do I get those into the system, and how do I get started? Can you just give me what would that look like for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing we do is we get your account set up, and that's pretty immediate with your area. And then we work on getting your data crosswalked and uploaded into the system. That can look, depending on how your data is now, that can work in a number of different ways, but through spreadsheets, through ArcGIS Online, through other software programs. And then we do a series of trainings with you and your staff to make sure everybody knows what those workflows are. Like Nicole mentioned, we've got resources available. We're constantly working on our help center articles, and then ongoing support. We have a ticketing system directly. You can access it directly from the product. Zach would be happy to show you how it works because he and his staff use it all the time. And we're available to answer questions, provide support, sort out issues.
Super, thanks. And then another question, the word customization, configuration comes up a lot. So how customizable are our forms? And I know in some places regulators have specific like inspection checklists. So how do you address those, Maggie?
Yeah, we work with the groups directly. So looking at your form, we can, for those different inspection types, we can control what questions show up and what they say. So that's a pretty easy process with you, just making sure you give the go-ahead on it. I'm also seeing questions about the letters that get sent back to the owners, or like the violations. Those are all customizable. You put your logo on it, have your text, the reference to your code. So yeah, all of that you need. We have a framework and then work with you to get what you need into that.
Super. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up here, but thank you, everybody. And of course, why don't we go to the next slide, because I think we have one more webinar in our spring series. So y'all are registered, you'll get the information from this, but now we're gonna go to that next step and getting your post-construction compliance program on track. That'll be April 16th. Bring your friends, feel free to share the registration, the more the merrier. And if you have any questions or you want a demonstration of 2Inform, please go to our website and reach out. And hope to talk to you all again soon. Thank you so much for your time.